Hello and welcome. In this explainer brought to you by the You Need Faith in Jesus team, we're jumping right into Genesis chapter 31. And wow, this is a story packed with God's faithfulness right in the middle of some serious family drama. We're going to see how Jacob handles his manipulative father-in-law Laban, and it is quite a ride. You know that feeling, right? When things just shift. You can feel it in the air. That's exactly where Jacob finds himself. God is blessing him, but instead of celebration, it's stirring up envy. His story is a powerful template for how we can navigate those exact situations with faith and, importantly, with integrity. All right, so let's set the scene. Jacob has been working for his uncle Laban for 20 years. 20 years. But the pressure is absolutely reaching a boiling point. Even though God's blessing is obvious on Jacob's life, he's finding himself in an increasingly hostile and suspicious place. So it starts with whispers. Genesis 3:1. Verse 1 says he heard Laban's sons saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's. They see God's blessing, which the Bible tells us adds no sorrow, and they twist it. They turn it into an ugly, false accusation of theft. And right there, that's your first major red flag that this whole environment has turned toxic. And it wasn't just the cousins. Verse 2 says Jacob looked at Laban's face, his own uncle, and he could see it. You know that look? The warmth was gone. The favor he used to have was replaced with this hard, resentful suspicion. It's written all over Laban's face, and it's a crystal clear sign that this season for Jacob is over. Now here's where it gets really good. At this absolute peak of tension, the solution doesn't come from some clever plan Jacob cooks up. Nope, it comes directly from God. And this is the divine pivot point for the entire story. Listen to this command in verse 3. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. See, Jacob didn't just react to the bad vibes. He waited for a specific word from God. And God not only tells him where to go, he gives him the most powerful promise you could ask for. I will be with thee. His next step is based on divine revelation, not human reaction. And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? When Jacob goes to his wives, Rachel and Leah, he lays out these two completely opposite realities. On one side, you have Laban's attitude, his countenance. It's fickle. It changes like the wind. But on the other side, he says, But the God of my father hath been with me. That's the solid rock. Man's attitude is shifting sand, but God's presence is a constant, faithful foundation. And you know, Jacob could stand on that foundation because his own conscience was clear. That was his fortress in all this. He lays out his resume, and it's just incredible. For 2 decades, he's worked his heart out, personally covering any losses, enduring the scorching heat and the freezing cold. And all the while, Laban, his own uncle, deceitfully changed his wages 10 times. That integrity is what gives Jacob the moral authority to make his next move. So Jacob obeys God, he packs up his family, his flocks, the whole shebang, and he makes a run for it. But as many of us know, leaving a toxic past isn't always that easy. The past has a way of pursuing you. And for Jacob, this leads to a huge, dramatic confrontation on a mountaintop. Jacob gets a crucial 3-day head start. But the second Laban finds out, the chase is on. For 7 straight days, Laban and his men are in hot pursuit, finally catching up to Jacob's camp in the mountains of Gilead. Can you just imagine the knot in your stomach, seeing that dust cloud on the horizon and knowing they've found you? So Laban arrives, and he is furious. He's got the men, he's got the power, and he definitely has the motive to do Jacob some serious harm. But here's the amazing thing. He's completely powerless. And why? Because God had already shown up. God got there first. This is, for all intents and purposes, a divine restraining order. Verse 24 tells us God came to Laban in a dream and gave him this direct warning. Take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And that phrase is so specific. It means don't you dare threaten him, but also don't even try to flatter him or sweet-talk him into coming back. God completely neutralized him before the conversation even started. So since violence is off the table, Laban pivots. He throws out this wild accusation of theft, but in doing so, he accidentally reveals just how foolish his own religion is. He says, Wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? I mean, think about that for a second. What kind of god can be stolen? And then the story gives us this almost hilarious scene. It turns out Rachel did take these little household idols, and she just hides them in her camel's saddle, and sits on top of them. I mean, it's the perfect picture of how worthless they are. These so-called gods are literally just baggage being sat on, completely powerless. So after they search and find nothing, Jacob finally lets him have it. 20 years of righteous frustration just comes pouring out. The power has totally shifted. He declares the core truth of this whole chapter in verse 42. "Except the God of my father had been with me, surely thou hast sent me away, now empty." He's saying, my success isn't about me. It's because God saw my struggle, and he himself rebuked you last night. What a moment. At this point, Laban is defeated, he's been exposed, and he's been divinely restrained. He has literally no moves left to make. So all he can do is propose a treaty, a covenant, to formally end the conflict and put a final boundary on their toxic relationship. So they set up this pillar of stones they call Mizpah. And this is so fascinating because we often hear this verse used in a really sweet way. But in its original context, it's the complete opposite. It's a warning. It's basically them saying, look, we don't trust each other as far as we can throw each other. So may God be the heavenly watchdog who makes sure neither of us crosses this line to harm the other. It's a non-aggression pact, not a friendship necklace. And even right here at the very end, Jacob makes one final clear statement. Laban wants to swear by his various gods, but Jacob refuses. Instead, he swears by the fear of his father Isaac, which is his way of saying, I am only aligning myself with the one true God of Abraham and Isaac. He is drawing a clear theological line in the sand, separating himself completely. So, what can we take away from Jacob's incredible journey? This isn't just some dusty old story. It's actually a practical roadmap for us, for how we can navigate our own difficult exits and walk into the freedom God has for us. So let's break it down into a path we can walk. First, we have to discern the atmosphere, right? We need to be sensitive like Jacob was when God is signaling a change. Second, we have to listen for his voice. We can't just react to the pressure. We have to move on his command. Third, maintain your integrity. Your clear conscience is your superpower when accusations fly. Fourth, trust God to protect you. He can, and he will put a restraining order on the enemy. Fifth, get rid of any hidden idols, any worldly things we're depending on instead of him. And finally, number 6, set clear boundaries. Make a formal separation from past things that are holding you back. To leave that old life behind, Jacob had to physically cross the river Euphrates. It was a decisive act of separation. So as we finish up, the question this story leaves us with is this: what river is it time for you to cross? On behalf of the You Need Faith in Jesus team, we pray this explainer has given you the encouragement to step forward into everything that God has waiting for you.